behind the scenes, it's not been great because the supporters, I think, have kind of turned on him a little bit as a result of that. He has told Newcastle he wants to explore the potential for a move away from the club this season. That, of course, this summer, should I say, that amidst the interest from Liverpool. There is now concrete interest because that offer was made this morning, as I say, for 110 million plus around £5 million in add-ons that Newcastle have turned down for two reasons. One, it doesn't meet the valuation, and two, if they were to sell him, if they were forced to sell him, they would want a top level replacement lined up, and they have not managed to do that so far this window. So it leaves Newcastle in a difficult position. As you rightly say there, we expect Liverpool to come back in with a second formal offer. They're preparing that formal offer as we speak. But Newcastle standing firm, rejecting the first one on those two reasons that I say. So this could be the biggest transfer of the summer. It would be a Premier League record if Liverpool were to get their man, but Newcastle rejecting that first approach from Liverpool this lunchtime as it falls well short of their valuation of the Swedish international.
Keith, given the fact that the informal approach happened a couple of weeks ago, then we've had bid number one. Bid number two seems to be coming soon, it would appear. What does that tell us about the timeline of when Liverpool at least want this deal done? We've still got a month left in this transfer window.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's plenty of time to do a transfer, but this is a big transfer. It's an eye-watering sum of money. We saw Liverpool do a deal earlier in the window for Florian Wirtz. They wanted to do that early due to the figures that were involved. Similar sort of figures is their first bid here. You know, similar fee that they paid for Florian Wirtz. I don't think this one will drag on until the end of the transfer window. I don't think Newcastle can allow that. There's too much. There's too many numbers involved. I think Newcastle will want something concrete out of this. You know, a resolution one way or the other, probably within the next 10 days, I would suggest. Newcastle are back from South Korea on Monday morning. Isak will be due back from Spain as well. He's of course over there training on his own. I don't know how much the club were aware that he decided to make that journey out there to do that. However, there's no surprise that he's training and recovering with his own physios and sports scientists, because it's something he does do quite often. Newcastle are comfortable with that relationship, so it's going to be intriguing to see what happens next week when Isak's back and Newcastle are back. There's obviously a chasm between them at the moment, with Newcastle away out in South Korea and Isak in San Sebastian in the Basque region. But I just think this is the sort of transfer Newcastle can't leave until the end of the window. They need to find some kind of resolution to this. But as I say there, Newcastle looking for a replacement, and a top level replacement as well. That doesn't come quickly. That's not easy. It's not cheap. We know they like Benjamin Sesko. Will they decide off the back of this, because Isak's so unsettled? If Liverpool up their bid to allow him to go, they will probably have to throw the kitchen sink at Benjamin Sesko to get him, because we know that Manchester United are really interested in him as well. So yeah, look, I think it will rumble on a bit, but I honestly don't think this is going to go on until the dying embers of the transfer window, due to the, as you rightly say, the seismic proportion of this transfer.
You mentioned a little bit there about Alexander Isak, you know, how he's recovering physically from that minor thigh injury earlier in the summer. But what about, I suppose, his mental state and his stance right now towards where his future is likely to head? Yeah,
well, look, that was the official line. That Isak had a minor thigh injury, and that's why he didn't travel with Newcastle on their pre-season tour. But look, without doubt, Newcastle and Eddie Howe wanted Isak with them. They didn't want him recovering by himself. Clearly, in addition to that, that was a bit of a smokescreen for the fact that his head has been turned by Liverpool's interest in him. Their unofficial approach a couple of weeks ago, they've made it clear they want to add him to their striking ranks. And I think at this stage of his career, 25, almost 26, he sees this as a real sweet spot in terms of moving. Yeah, and he also feels that you know, he was promised, or he was told he would get paid more at Newcastle than what he is at the moment. He would receive a pay rise and a contract extension. That hasn't come about. Those talks have been shelved, and we're stood here, and it's a bit of an impasse. So look, his head is turned without doubt. Newcastle are hugely frustrated by this